The story of explosives does not begin on a battlefield, but in the quiet world of the science laboratory. Early alchemists like Ascanio Sobrero and Alfred Nobel, in their pursuit of new substances, stumbled upon volatile mixtures. A pinch of a crystalline powder and a few drops of a reactive liquid, and they suddenly unleashed a bright flash and a deep echoing bang through the stones. These were the first whispers of a kind of compound that would reshape our planet, purely born of scientific pursuit. Initially seen as curiosities, these discoveries became tools of immense constructive potential. We learned to mix compounds like nitroglycerin and formulate stable explosives such as dynamite. Mountains were tunneled through for railways, and great canals were carved for global trade. Explosives became the tools of progress, blasting paths for roads and demolishing old mansions for skyscrapers. It was a phase of optimism, where this force seemed benevolent to human ingenuity. The sound of a controlled blast was the echo of obstacles being overcome. It seemed we had found a perfect tool to aid our development without considering the wider future consequences. The same properties that made explosives brilliant tools for creation also made them terrifying instruments of war and destruction. The same chemical energy that cracks hard rock in mining could also tear through walls and defenses. Greed and conflict led nations to weaponize this chemical energy. Laboratories shifted focus from construction to combat, creating military-grade explosives like TNT and RDX. This dark evolution reached its apex during the World Wars, with landscapes subjected to relentless bombardments. Cities were reduced to rubble, cultural heritage obliterated by high-explosive shells and bombs. Even after peace treaties, the development of more destructive ordnance continued. The dual-edged nature of this discovery was starkly apparent, a force unleashed but not easily contained. Beyond warfare, the life cycle of an explosive inflicts a profound toll on the natural world. The harm begins with the extraction of raw materials like saltpeter and continues through polluting synthesis and detonation that makes them volatile. Unexploded ordnance litters form conflict zones, acting as dormant chemical time bombs. Military training grounds become sacrifice zones, with soil contaminated and wildlife disrupted. The environmental consequences of our explosive legacy have been allowed to fester and grow. We are only now beginning to grasp the full extent of this problem, realizing the scars left by explosives are etched into the fabric of the natural world. The synthesis of modern explosives is a resource-intensive process that leaves a permanent mark on our planet. Mining for metals like lead and copper transforms landscapes, displacing countless species. Acidic mine drainage contaminates rivers and groundwater, rendering them lifeless. Once extracted, nitrogen, sulfur, and carbon compounds are synthesized into explosive forms, a process generating toxic waste. During conflict, the demand for munitions magnifies this environmental impact. Even in peacetime, the maintenance of military stockpiles perpetuates destructive mining and polluting processes. Every weapon carries a hidden history of environmental degradation, a cost the planet pays in full. The moment of detonation subjects the environment to extreme physical forces. A single explosion can create a deep crater, blasting away vital topsoil, scattering gases and soot into the air. The auditory violence of an explosion disrupts wildlife, causing stampedes and disorientation. Explosions can spark wildfires, destroying forests and grasslands. The physical damage extends to the ecosystem, with vegetation obliterated and habitats fragmented. This loss of plant cover destabilizes the soil, increasing the risk of landslides and flooding. What was once a thriving habitat can be reduced to a barren, unstable patch of earth. The explosion is a profound ecological reset, pushing the environment back to its simplest state. The most insidious damage caused by explosives is the long-term chemical contamination. Unburnt explosive residues and toxic byproducts settle into the soil, posing a grave threat. Heavy metals like lead and mercury are vaporized and dispersed, accumulating in the food chain. Unexploded ordnance leaks hazardous contents into the environment, creating toxic time bombs. In the marine environment, dumped munitions poison ecosystems and contaminate seafood. On land, leaking UXO renders soil sterile and poisons groundwater aquifers. This is the ultimate legacy of explosive ordnance, a permanent chemical scar on the earth. Wildlife is caught in the crossfire of our conflicts, suffering in ways we are only beginning to understand. Landmines and unexploded ordnance kill or maim endangered species, pushing populations closer to extinction. Contaminated habitats poison the entire food web, leading to reproductive failure and chronic illness. The presence of explosives forces both human and animal populations to move, increasing deforestation and human-wildlife conflict. The disruption of natural behaviors fragments habitats, preventing animals from accessing food and water. The intricate balance of an ecosystem is incredibly fragile, and explosives violently disrupt this delicate web of life. The damage ripples through the entire system in ways we can barely predict. The introduction of explosives is a violent disruption that tears at the delicate web of life. We stand at a critical juncture, witnessing the immense harm explosives inflict on our planet. The path forward requires a shift in perspective, a move towards active stewardship of the natural world. We must recognize that the health of ecosystems is linked to our security and survival. Clearance operations must include the principle of leaving the environment in a better state. Robust international regulations and environmental impact assessments are essential. Innovation is key, with alternatives to polluting practices and improved clearance methods. The contamination from explosives is a global problem that respects no borders. True progress requires international cooperation and a shared commitment to protect our home. It is our moral obligation to ensure future generations inherit a healthy, thriving planet.